This episode of The Young Turks is brought to you by Squarespace. Pat Robertson has found out that the gay marriage law in New York is going to be a significant problem. It might involve angel rape. Just when you thought you weren't going to hear about angel rape. Let's go to Pat Robertson.
I think we need to remember the term sodomy came from a town that was known as Sodom, and Sodom was destroyed by God Almighty, and the thing that they practiced was homosexual activity, and even they tried to rape angels who came down there, so that's the kind of people they were. But beyond that, Jesus didn't, when he spoke of Sodom, he didn't say anything about the homosexuality. He talked about just the fact that business was as usual until God decided to destroy it. And he sent an angel down there, and he said to Lot and his family, get out now, because I'm going to destroy this whole area. So that's where sodomy came from. We use the term sodomy, and it means Sodom. And what's it like? Well, we're heading that way as a nation. And in history, there's never been a civilization ever in history that has embraced homosexuality and turned away from traditional fidelity, traditional marriage, traditional child rearing, and has survived. There isn't one single civilization that has survived that had openly embraced homosexuality. So you say, what's going to happen to America? Well, if history's any guide, the same thing's going to happen to us. It's not a pretty world we live in right now, and we need all of God's help we can get. And I don't think we're exactly setting ourselves up for his favor.
All right, let me spell out the different ways of how incredibly stupid that is. First of all, none of those empires have survived, the ones that allowed homosexuality. Yeah, except none of the empires have survived, period, whether they allowed homosexuality or not. So, for example, the Greeks had homosexuality, but they didn't survive, did they? Well, the Mongols, as far as we know, did not allow homosexuality. They also did not survive because they were in history, and that was a long time ago. Now, when you talk about empires that lasted the longest in history, well, one of them would be the Roman Empire. Again, rampant homosexuality, bisexuality, and every kind of sexuality you could imagine. And it was one of the most successful empires in the history of the world, let alone the Greek Empire, etc., etc. By the way, of the ones that did survive, what's the biggest empire in the world right now? America. And what do? Apparently, according to Pat Robertson, we allow homosexuality. So the lesson I'm actually getting is that if you allow homosexuality, you'll have an awesome empire. And by the way, one of the reasons that I know that, and it might be somewhat related, is that Alexander the Great apparently was at least bisexual. And he's the one that created one of the great empires in the world. In fact, he conquered more of the world than anyone else. So Pat Robertson's logic, a little flawed, shockingly enough. And then he says, oh, but you don't understand. America is, in a lot of trouble, and you know what's going to happen. What's the funny thing is, once we start getting climate change, because you remember Pat Robertson blamed Hurricane Katrina on gays too. He blamed 9/11 on gays. So if we have an economic collapse because of Wall Street, or if we have, natural disasters because of climate change or anything like that, Robertson's going to turn around and go, "See, I told you, it was the gays." Now back to angel rape for a second. You got to give it to the people of Sodom. Of course, I don't believe that story at all. It's the most preposterous story of all time. Who would rape angels, really? Right? But if they did, they're kind of badass. I mean, that's a bad city, man. They're like, oh, cool, angels sent by God. Let's rape them. Can you imagine anybody more bad than that? Squarespace is the easiest and fastest way to put up a blog, a portfolio, I don't know what that is, but I guess people do that, or any kind of website.
If you need customer support, they provide it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
You can start your website or your blog with over 60 different professionally designed templates.
You can also upload content from your iPhone, your iPad, or your home computer. That's awesome.
Squarespace's mobile apps allow you to add entries or manage your website from anywhere.
Many of the internet's highest traffic websites are powered by none other than Squarespace.
Check out squarespace.com to get a 2-week free trial and 30% off of 3 months, which is a great deal if you do it in June and enter promo code TYT6.